welcome to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose rig runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald enthusiast here with a special guest.
Yes, we have a very special guest today. So you set up the interview, so I'll let you do your wrestling style introductions because I know you always wanted to be Howard Finkel. So take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and beings of the Omniverse, please welcome GLAAD award-winning writer, artist. He is best known for his Iceman title, but he has worked for Image and Marvel and DC. Please welcome Sina Grace.
I wish I had an intro song like no.
Yeah, we should have got one. For
we'll work on that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure for us to have you on and to be able to talk to you. So thanks a lot for giving us some of your time.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is what I do, and this is what I was doing before I even hopped on, was just talking comics and talking trash with friends. So
awesome. Perfect.
You're just allowing me to say, like, it's like if I have a drink right now, that drink is a write-off.
Awesome. All right, Donnie, we've got some questions for our guest of honor, so why don't you start us off?
Actually, didn't we say you're going to start him off?
Oh, yeah. Yes, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm already messing up the order of things. Okay. So just to get us started, what are your earliest comic book memories, and what was the moment that you knew you wanted to be a professional creator?
The sucky thing about answering this question now is, like, I'm calling my age out. I grew up when comic books were still in grocery stores at spinner racks, and so my earliest memories were grabbing like a Detective Comics annual. That's Sam Keith did the cover of, like, it's like the Joker's like tearing away at Batman's like chest plate. I think that was 1991, and some like Ninja Turtle movie adaptation comic books. So those were my earliest memories, and then I grew up next to a comic store called Heidi Ho Comics, which I later worked at in high school. And
that's cool. Yeah.
I would go in there, and then and I loved it, except they had movie posters, and on display for like a short period was like the Child's Play movie poster, and I was terrified of Chucky. So there's like a gap in my collection and my memory where I wouldn't buy comics. I would just buy trading cards, which actually professionally is amazing because those trading cards give you access to all these characters you would not necessarily know about. And then suddenly you're like, okay, this is their power, this is their origin, and like a few quick factoids. Like, and so that sort of helped me in terms of just, you know, really getting into like these like random B characters, and building a love for them that, you know, may not happen when you're just watching the movies and the cartoons. And then, but like, you know, all through that, I kind of developed like a love to, like, a desire to make comics. And I was a big fan of the Generation X comic when it first came out. So I would draw my friends as like Generation X characters. They're not good drawings, but it was just always organic, and never once challenged as like, you can't do that. So I just kept going. But as early as 5th grade, it's in my school yearbook. I like, I like that it's there, you know, there's proof, there's evidence that as my dream job, I said comic book illustrator. So I did it, little me.
Awesome. There you go. All right, that's a great story. Cool.
All right.
Donnie, take it away.
Yes, sir. So you have worked for Image and Marvel and DC. What kind of thoughts go through your head when you realize you've been so influential in so many different parts of pop culture? What goes through your mind when you see your body of work?
Well, also don't forget my buddies at Boom Studios and IDW. I love them too. Sorry,
Sure.
It's like I love everybody, but you know, here's the thing. It's kind of a like, all right, you're making cookies, right? Sometimes you make a bad batch of cookies. Sometimes people don't want those cookies. Sometimes you are making cookies that people want at that moment, or you know, some celebrity is like, I love these cookies, and then the cookies take off. You don't know when you're making the cookies if the cookies are going to turn out great and if people are going to like them. And so it's almost like, and maybe it's because of just my experience, like, you know, coming up as like, I was an intern at Top Cow in high school, and I worked at a comic store, and I, you know, self-published and kind of had to climb and learn. And then I was a comic book editor for Robert Kirkman and The Walking Dead and over there. And maybe it's just from witnessing so many different angles of this dream, of this pursuit, that I don't know, I just don't, you can't think about that stuff. Or at least I don't, because I think I think what I absorbed in that experience is that it might be like a fool's errand to go down that rabbit hole. And you don't know, you just don't know, because something might be really cool right now, and then in 3 years, no one cares. You know, I think, especially with Iceman, every time it would come out, people would kind of just say some cruddy stuff. And then 6 months later, the right people would find the book and then, you know, luckily pick up what I was putting down and say some cool things. So you just never know. And I guess at the end of the day, I just think about like going back to how I felt when I was, you know, in middle school and high school, and I'd go to the comic store and I was so excited for like Danger Girl and Crimson and Battle Chasers and Fathom and Witchblade, and whenever Carlos Pacheco would draw X-Men, and just sort of like I always just try to go back to that and go like, what would make you think something cool is happening in a comic book right now? So that's, yeah, very long answer, and kind of like not the answer, not like I kind of like went in a different direction, but yeah, I don't think about it.
Yeah. And this will lead into our next question that Adam will ask you, but I saw the cover that you did for The Walking Dead for Pride Month. I believe it was 2017. That was awesome. Yeah, you posted it on Twitter a few years ago, and I remember thinking, wow, you know?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was a Robert Kirkman idea too. And the thing I loved about that, and that made me say like, you know, like say F yes to the opportunity, was that it just was like, so, we were just both like, how do we make this as violent and gross as possible? Like, I just think, you know, like I was just really excited to just draw guts and also show people that I can draw these things. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
Okay,
That's
Adam.
awesome. That's awesome. So what were your impressions of LGBTQ characters as you were like growing up and in comics and seeing them in comics? And were there any changes that you wanted to see happen? And are there still changes that you'd like to see happen today?
Well, I mean, I think coming up, there was this like, oh, there'd be some here, some there, you know, characters who, you know, identify as like, you know, any part of the queer spectrum. And I don't know, I think I just took it, I grew up taking it as a given that they would never be marquee characters and would never sort of be able to have the same spotlights. Like they would be there, but they would be over there, and they would kind of not, you know. And I think because they would, you know, it's like if you think about North Star and Alpha Flight, and you think about the budgets those books get when the editors hire teams, it's like you're not getting I don't know why I'm so stuck in 1999, but like Joe Madureira drawing Alpha Flight. So you wouldn't get Joe Madureira drawing North Star. You would get like Ron Lim, who is great and has actually gotten so great in the past 10 years. But like, you know, Ron Lim in like 1998 is not like, you know, like a 13-year-old's like wet dream of cool comic art. So it just felt like, yeah, I think it, you know, I think it just sort of like, the cycle kind of carried itself along. And then honestly, I think Batwoman was like the first time I saw a character that was like, oh, like these perspectives can occupy the same space as like Batman and Superman without it feeling like pandering, or it feeling like a special project, or it feeling like it'll just go away, or it's a flash in the pan. And since then, like since that character came out, I think the door has been opening a lot more. And I guess it just, you know, it would be very cool if moving forward, it's just like not a big deal. It'd just be
Right,
great if
yeah.
it's not a big deal. And I think even Robin being bisexual, from the outside looking in, I don't think people really had an issue with that, because there's like 19 Robins, and like, like, it's like whatever, dude, like,
Yeah, like
all
I read it the other day. Like I read when the news, before I read the issue, because of course social media is going to spoil everything. Because God forbid I can read an issue without being spoiled. But
right.
I read, and they had the headline, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool. And it was like, I can't wait to see what they did. I can't wait to read it. But it was like, it's there, it's part of the thing. And now just tell me your story, which is what I liked about Batwoman, which is what you're saying. It's part of the story. It felt like a natural, progression of the story, and they were telling the story, and it wasn't pandering, like you said. They weren't trying to say, "Oh, look what we're doing over here," and like winking at the audience, saying, "Look, coming." I like when it's natural and it's just part of the story, and it's why. My thing is, you're right. When is it going to get to a place where it's not a crazy thing where you got people freaking out on the internet, and like let it be what it is, and let's just enjoy storytelling. Let it reflect
Well, and it's
the real world.
yeah, it's just tough too, because I think in comic books, like, while there is a hunger for new ideas, I think when you're looking at sort of like the realm of like Justice League and Avengers and stuff like that you do run into this resistance to newness in terms of characters. Like, I mean, even myself, like, I don't, like, I will always be interested to see like a new Robin, but then like Azrael, I was like, what? Well, you're lucky you look cool, Azrael. But like, like there's this sort of like, I don't know if I'm ready for that, and so it's hard to then inject those perspectives into those spaces and those in those cities, for lack of a better term, like Gotham, in Metropolis. It's like,
Sure.
and it's so, and especially in Metropolis, it's like so set in stone, like, like I think people would have a really hard time like digesting Clark Kent, who they've known forever, like, giving blowjobs on the side. Like, like it's like that's not, like, but anyway, but that being said, I think a lot of these publishers are finding ways to like make it happen in a more organic way. And again, it's just richer storytelling. It's also just storytelling. And I think if we follow like Dick Grayson and his on again, off again relationship with an alien, we can follow, Tim Drake and right. Whether or not like, he's into a guy this week.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Thanks.
Donnie, you're up.
So tell us, sir, what's your creative process for both writing and drawing?
I'll start with, I think, the easier one. Well, they're both different in different ways, but with writing, I think I use the same kind of mind tricks that you pick up at any point of your like education, whether you're learning on the fly, read something online, or went to a class. But just the very easy question of like, what does this character want and how do they get it? And then sort of adding and then putting that against something or someone else that wants the complete opposite, and then playing with the tension. And then something I read in a Mark Waid interview about Black Widow years ago, and that I never thought about until that interview. I also asked, like, what is this character afraid of, and how do I put that character right in front of that fear, and have them deal with it. So as a writer, you start there, and I love people rather than concepts. Like, I always think about people, and I believe that we're all so complicated and cool, and I want to like focus on that and expand on that, and give a lot of like breath to the fact that like we're all freaking complex. Even the simple ones. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in everybody's head. So that's where I start, and then you sort of add the the conceptual layers around it. So if it's like a superhero story or a Marvel or DC story, you then think about like, okay, well, what does it mean that this is a Wonder Woman story, or what does it mean that this is a Gotham City story? Because I think with Gotham City, the demons are the demons in your head, and so many of these characters are metaphors about like mental health and mental illness. So then you're like, okay, well, how do I then like conceptualize that and in that direction? Then with Wonder Woman, I think she's a reflection of the beauty of humanity. So I try to just go, how is the conflict she's dealing with going to tie back to this, I believe a mortal, like a goddess, like basically loving us and then showing us how to love ourselves, in the same way. So those are sort of two quick examples. And then for drawing, it just always starts with like, what's something cool to draw and then build off of that. Like I don't draw stories in sequence. I draw them based on like, okay, this is the visual epicenter of an issue, of a page, of an arc, and then sort of branching out from there to make sure that it connects with the things that need to happen to make sure that the reader understands what's going on. So, but even with drawing, I like if my wrist goes, does its own thing and goes idle, I'm drawing people. It's always about the people.
Okay.
So tell us, see, you brought up Wonder Woman, so we'll go there. Tell us about your impending story in Wonder Woman, the black and gold.
Oh, yeah.
Issue. We just released a sensational Wonder Woman story that I did, issue 6, and that was cool. And that was a very like the challenge. The way I looked at it was like, okay, if there was I don't think there's a current Wonder Woman animated series, but I was like, okay, if there was, or if there's one that I was watching right now, what would be like the perfect 20-minute episode? So I just told a very, one and done story about her and Queen Bee, and sort of like her kind of doing a contest of champions against all of her old enemies. And that was a fun one. And then with Wonder Woman Black and Gold, I'm a big fan of Batman Black and White, like huge fan. We are not talking about the money I spent on those statues. I'm right there with you, man.
We're not talking about how I broke the second ear off my Mike Mignola one to match the fact that the other one had broken, to make it like just look intentional, because I would have just been angry staring at it every single time. So I just had a Mentos moment and knocked the other one off.
So you wanted the symmetry. You had to have it that way.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just seeing the fucking accident.
Yeah, it'll bother you, yeah.
But with and so with like I'm like deathly afraid to ever touch Batman. So like I don't have any ambitions to do Batman Black and White. But then when I heard about Wonder Woman Black and Gold, I just, as a fan and as someone who kind of had the minute I got to work with Diana, I was like, well, I have so many more stories with her. And those are like, I think 8 to 10 page stories. So I had one that really fit within the concept too of just only using so few colors. And it's I'm just gonna say, like, I brought up the other guy, Marvel. I brought up like I had this like greatest Spider-Man stories ever told book, and there was this really touching one with Spider-Man and a sick kid, and that's all I'll say. And I just thought, have I seen that with Diana? Because she's one of the most compassionate, graceful, loving, endearing, like, beings in the DC universe. And what is, like, can I tell a really touching story with her? But then I was also like, and like, can it look really freaking sick? So I think you can see in the preview artwork I put out on my birthday, we go back, we touch on her mod era. I don't know if either of you read, like, in the 60s, she got depowered and then ran a clothing boutique. Yeah. So this is this is like a love letter, I think, to that weird corner in her history, but
Okay.
then also just a love letter to like how I think the character interacts with the folks around her. So it's just I hope I land the plane. You'll see. But yeah, there's like fight scenes and fashion and Wonder Woman just being like sweet and emotional.
Awesome. Sounds
Yeah,
good to me.
I definitely like the visuals that you posted on
Yeah.
Twitter, the artwork. Yeah.
Looks
Yeah,
really
Leo Romero. Holy moly. Holy moly. And I think younger than me, which really like I guess I'm just getting I think I'm just getting on in age and I need to like accept that and not be so threatened and depressed when people who are 10 years younger than me are better.
Just know that we're all getting there. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
you're not alone in that aspect.
Yeah, we're all on the same road.
Yeah. One day, one way or another, we're all gonna get there. So
So we got to talk about Green Lantern fandom now.
Yes.
That's how you
I
and
expected it.
Yeah,
like,
you and I
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, he wanted to save it for the last question. So.
As Green Lantern fans, tell us about your Green Lantern fandom, and will we ever get to see Underworld on Fire?
Okay, so all right, this is going to be like a 9-minute answer. I'll start with I don't know. It's all rich with words. Kyle Rayner was my start, which I know you know, and I got into him by way of the Grant Morrison Justice League. And that's sort of where my penchant for him developed. And so it was weird because like I always liked Hal, but I kind of liked him as like Parallax just because of the timing. Yeah. And I didn't have this bond with Hal Jordan the same way I think a lot of fans did. I took Kyle as a given, and then the only one that like in the beginning I did not embrace was Guy Gardner, but I have since grown to like him. I just think, his earlier interpretations were like, not my favorite cup of tea, but they've sort of found a way to make him this and that. And I love that about him now. But and then for a while I kind of like took space. I like got some space away from the Green Lantern franchise in general, and it wasn't because the stories didn't affect me. I think as a creative, I get really stalled out thinking about like cosmic stuff. And once Jeff Johns came in, I think the cosmic stuff just really went next level. And so I kind of like I got overwhelmed and walked away for a little bit. And then you look at sort of like my so far published contribution to the Green Lantern mythos. It's Simon Baz, and it of course it's
right here.
There you go. It was a great story too.
Homegrown hero. You can find it. This is the Green Lantern 80th anniversary issue. You can get Sina Grace right here writing Simon Baz.
And then there you go. Is like I gravitate towards like this very human Green Lantern. This very and I think that's what I loved about him and Jess is like they're not done baking as people, they're not done baking as heroes, but they still got it, and they're still among the best of the best. And then I just reminded myself that it doesn't matter where Green Lantern is, it's the ideal of Green Lantern that needs to persist in the story. And so then it was like, okay, like let's relax, like the story is the story wherever it takes place, like as long as it's about the people. And to summarize for anyone who doesn't know, DC Comics had this contest a few months ago called Round Robin, which the name alone, a little biased in the results. But you know what? But also,
exactly.
But I said, you know what though? But like it was like, oh, but the winner gets a green light. So I was like, okay, I know the contest says Robin, but the end game is green. So I was like, okay, cosmically or karmically, I don't know. But it was, I was in the final 4 with a Green Lanterns pitch called Underworld on Fire, and that's where you and I got to really know each other and kind of geek out. And it was I was just drawn to the idea of a Kyle and Kilowog buddy cop book. I just thought, man, like, yeah, let's just see these two get into shenanigans. And then the shenanigans I came up with, I was really excited about. And my editor, Michael McAllister, I was not super familiar with Viken Marion. And he was like, oh, this guy he draws a good Kyle, like you'll like him. And
oh yes.
oh yes, indeed. And man, he is great. And he's also just like a really lovely collaborative human being. And when I told him what I was thinking about, because for me, like, I love Kyle and he's had such a crazy journey, but I feel like we have like forgotten about sort of the human elements of Kyle, because we have, like, as readers, as creators, as people orbiting around this character, I think his like trajectory as like a leader and someone who can, affect great change with his power, like that became sort of the main thing. And I was like, yeah, but this guy's also like an artist. This guy also like kind of like stumbled upon being a lantern. Like there's some worthiness issues I want to like deal with. And V. Ken Marion was just like, I don't know, like, do I just call him V? But anyway, he just really tapped into that with me and loved what I was putting down and what the plan was. But we lost to Robin, and it was a bummer, but it was also really cool because I did get to meet some rad folks. And then also I think it helped me be more confident about the kind of Green Lantern fan I am, because as someone who worked at a comic store, someone who's like gone to comic conventions and waited in line with people, like, Green Lantern fans can be intimidating. I mean, all fandoms can be really intimidating, but I think Green Lantern fans in specific can be super intimidating because I think because of where the like what any of the lanterns inspire in us is like, it's just this very pure thing. So then, like, if you get into it, you're kind of like, what do you know? Like what? You don't love it the way I love it. And I'm like, but I love it.
This is my lantern. Get out of here.
But anyway, yeah. So I developed confidence in my love for the character, and the character, like, which characters I vibe with, and I'm okay to be like, listen, I'm ambivalent about Guy Gardner. Don't get mad at me. But yeah, to answer the other question of if it will happen, I think the only thing I can say right now, and I've said to you privately, it's also my public answer, is not no. DC, the folks at DC really saw that there was a lot of passion for sort of what was on the table there, and then I think the folks behind the scenes also saw what we wanted to do with those characters. And like, on the one hand, yes, it's a fun buddy cop book, but I think I really challenged myself as a storyteller to like add another wrinkle to Kyle Rayner's story that would be impactful and would stay there, and then also maybe even like add a little more flesh to Kilowog. Like, as much reading as I do about the character, I'm like, okay, I feel like people just like only harp on the same like 3 to 4 things about Kilowog, and so I also wanted to like build that dude out a little bit and really get under his flesh and understand him a bit more. So not no, but I don't know. But I think Viken Marion and I will work together at some point, because that's a bromance right there. Like, I really like, we were talking about like Michael Turner for like hours. We just and it's like, anyway, so yeah, he's a very, very rad dude. And same thing too, if you ever need to be cheerleaders for the folks making comics that are kind of like hardcore fans themselves, like he's one of them. Like, he just, it's hard to draw a page the way he draws a page, and he does it because it's the same thing. He wants to make something that he would think is super rad. And that energy is just like, it's rare.
Yeah. I just want to say, even though we lost, I was in the trenches with you. We fought all the way, and I'll always
Yeah,
have those great memories. Yeah.
I was tweeting, I was retweeting, I was doing the
Yeah.
whole thing,
And
and I
he and I,
think
go ahead.
like you said, the interest you could see. I mean, you'd have to be oblivious to not see the interest there, and I think Green Lantern as a property can hold more than one book. Maybe 5 or 6 is a little excessive, given that there was the Jeff Johns period where all that happened, and then of course you're gonna have to downsize it because. But
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3, it's okay. DC, you can put out 2 or 3 Green Lantern books. I mean, sales are good right now, so why not try it? So I hope it happens. The book looked great. Your idea, the bits that we got of it sounded great. So hopefully it happens, and I'll definitely be purchasing it should that come to be. So definitely, we're crossing our fingers for you, and hope DC has the good sense to get it done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and you just always got to be like business minded too. Like one of my fellow contestants, Josh Trujillo, had a Blue Beetle pitch, and when there was the casting announcement for the movie, called Josh, and I was like, "Hey, babe, like your book's gonna happen." I think like I don't know anything.
I would assume,
right?
I don't know how it works, but to me, common sense would dictate. Oh, there's a movie about this guy. Let's put a book out. Like it just makes sense. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And take this thing that already has momentum and traction, because Josh was also in the final four, top 4 of that, and that book looked stunning. And I mean, our friendship also super bonded in that crazy period. But I was like, I told him, I was just like, I only want to lose to you because that book is so great and I want to read it, and I only want to lose to you. And I think the thing with Robins was just like, it was such a bummer because like, it's like, well, of course, like everyone wants to see fucking 9 Robins hanging out with each other, and the way the reader's mind works in terms of just like fantasizing about what would happen if all those Robins came together. Like, of course they're like, oh, I really want to see it, and it's like, well, yeah, but like,
so you don't need a tournament to do that. That'll sell on its own. Like that'll be fine on its own. You know what I mean? It didn't have to.
I mean, but there was also like a Superman and Lois pitch, which I thought was going to be final 2 hands down. So you just never know. Like, it's like, it was a very interesting experience, and I will definitely voluntarily give them feedback, because I do think it's like, it is super unfair to have like a Superman and Lois pitch go against, and this didn't happen, but like Superman and Lois going against like Etta Candy. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like,
that's
who's gonna win? Gee, I wonder.
That's like apples and like kiwis. You know what I mean? Just like,
it's like, I know it's a bad comparison, but it's like apple pie or broccoli. Which one am I going to choose? Give me the apple pie.
And I'm like, give me the broccoli. I need some nutrients right now.
But no, I seriously, like I said, I hope it happens. I'll be crossing our fingers. I'll hashtag or tweet about it as often as I can, reminding everybody, like, remember that book? Yeah, you should publish that.
Oh, you'll know. I mean, don't worry. Yeah, I at least the nice thing to say about it all is like, I can say that DC Comics was like message received, but they also, I remember talking to, I don't know if I should say which writer's name, but I was talking to one of the writers at DC just to like, there's just like, they've already planned a year out in terms of like the grand scheme thing. So if they then go, okay, like we do want to tell the story, it has to like massage back into what will be happening in the continuity, which I do not want to get in trouble.
No, we don't want to get in trouble. That's fine. Yeah, we get it.
We don't want to. So, Sina, if fans want to connect with you and talk comics, where can they find you online?
They shouldn't. No, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter's kind of like a very wild place, so I don't always see and engage with questions on Twitter. I mean, obviously, like you and I, we all found like a safe space to chat, but like, so I would say like Instagram is my favorite place, just because I think like haters don't necessarily like go to Instagram to hate on you, so I can trust that questions aren't like weird ways of just like, getting me to say something so then they can go run to like somewhere else and take it out of context. But I'm on both. My name is my name on those things at Sina Grace. That's really great. And I'm on Facebook too, but not a lot. So, but yeah, I'm all over the place. And you know, just depends on what you're in the mood for. If you're in the mood for words, Twitter. If you're in the mood for pictures, Instagram.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Well, Donnie, they know where to find us. I'm getting the warning that we're going to get kicked off here soon. So we'll save our social media plugs for later. Sure. But Sina, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hopefully we can have you back.
So much.
At some point,
anytime.
And talk some more comics. And maybe that Green Lantern idea when it happens, cross your fingers.
Yeah, I just knocked on wood. So thank you guys so much. This was a blast. I just made my dog think someone knocked on the door. So.
Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to having you back hopefully soon. And we'll take it from there. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Yep.
You too.
See you, sir.
Thank you so much. That was fun. That was succinct. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was great. We really appreciate you coming on. And like I said,
very much so. Yes, thank you so much.